Hello, today is 3/24 of 26, and I am here with a video of what I eat in a day on my keto journey. If you're new here, my name is Christy. I changed my diet to a high protein, moderate fat, low carb diet in April of 2024. It is currently quarter till 9. I am getting ready to leave, and I've made myself some coffee and a donut. I didn't make the donut. To take with me. If you saw my video from yesterday, I talked about how I couldn't use my Fairlife whole milk because I ran out. But I've gone to the store and now I have some. Turns out I didn't actually get any. So I'm stuck with regular 2% milk. And I already planned to have a higher carb day because I made some keto lasagna soup, which has, it doesn't have any noodles in it, but it has like it's a tomato based soup, right? And so it's got more carbs just because tomato has more carbs in it. And so I really didn't want to have even more carbs of having the regular milk. So I made myself a whipped coffee today. This is what it looks like. I've made this before. I will link to it in the description below. But it's pretty much just water, instant coffee, some sweetener, whipped together, and then I added a cup of almond milk. I am not ready for my next meal, but because I didn't have the added protein in my coffee this morning, I realized I'm going to need to like add some protein to what I had planned for today. So I decided to make a mug cake, a protein mug cake, which I've made before. I am changing the recipe. So I realized the original recipe actually just calls for beef protein powder. It doesn't call for chocolate protein powder, which is what I have been using. So I'm going to try making it with just the plain beef protein powder and see how it turns out. I have in my bowl 1 beaten egg and 2 tablespoons of unsweetened almond milk. And then I have 14 grams of beef protein powder. So it's from Bulk Supplements. I'd show you the package, but I don't actually have it anymore because it comes in a bag and these like containers are so much easier to work with. So I put it in an extra container that I have. I am going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of powdered sweetener. This is a monk fruit allulose blend. In the other recipe that I've done in getting it right, I add 3 tablespoons, but I'm not sure that I'm going to need 3 since I'm not adding the additional like chocolate from the protein powder. And then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons, which is what the original recipe calls for, of uh, unsweetened cocoa powder. This is Ghirardelli brand. This is the one that I like the most. And then the original recipe does not call for this, but I just feel like it's going to need it. I'm going to add a half teaspoon of this vanilla bean powder. You could also use like vanilla extract. I just feel like it's going to need some depth of flavor added to it. And so that's why I'm going to add a half teaspoon. And the original recipe calls for some baking powder, but I accidentally didn't add baking powder one time and it turned out like even better than with adding the baking powder. So I'm not going to add the baking powder. All right, so here's my cake. So another part of my little experiment today is to use a wider bowl rather than using like a tall, thinner, right, coffee cup, just to see if it bakes a little better. It tended to get a bit overdone on top and then underdone on the bottom, so that's why I wanted to make that change. And it seems like it did work better. Now, I did taste the batter before I baked this, and it did need some more sweetener. So I did add 1 more tablespoon of sweetener in. I will have this tonight for my dessert and let you know how it tastes. It is 12:20 and I am ready for my second meal of the day. So I made a keto version of lasagna soup. I will link to the recipe in the description below. And I've topped it with a couple tablespoons of extra cottage cheese and a couple tablespoons of shredded Parmesan. I did make some changes to the recipe. The original recipe calls for cooking the onion and garlic in butter and getting it all softened down and then you add the meat and cook and crumble the meat. I just put it all in one step. I cooked the meat with the garlic and onion all at the same time. I didn't use the added butter. The reason I did this is number one, I want to get my calories from elsewhere, not from that butter. And then also just really for time. Like that's an additional step I just did not have time for. So I just cooked it all together. The original recipe calls for 1 pound of meat. I used 2 pounds of meat, and it calls for 4 cups of beef broth. I only used 2 cups of beef broth. And then finally, it calls for ricotta cheese, and I just used cottage cheese. Okay, so let's taste this and see what it's like. That is really, really good. I like that a lot. Yeah, definitely going to make that one again. And then I'm also going to have my cake. So let's give it a try. Yeah, it tastes like chocolate cake. I would say it doesn't quite taste as decadent as when it was made with the Equip protein powder, but it's still a really good cake. Another thing I thought of instead of adding the 3 tablespoons of sweetener is maybe adding some of that chalk zero caramel syrup on top to sweeten it up. So maybe next time I make it, I might do that. It is 6 o'clock. I have to leave in 15 minutes and I will not be back until 8:30ish tonight. So I am warming myself up a couple of andouille sausages from Good and Gather. These are my favorite kind. I have some cheesecake bowl. It's made with Greek yogurt and mixed with Jello brand sugar-free cheesecake pudding. I had a timer going off. And I topped it with some of this chalk zero caramel sauce. It's delicious, just about a tablespoon. And then I'm also going to, because I'm going to be short on protein today, and I do need a few more calories. So I'm going to also take with me when I leave, I'm going to take this protein bar and I'll eat that too. So let's take a look at how my day turned out. I ended up not eating the protein bar. I had more of the cheesecake bowl than I originally had thought that I had. So I logged it as 2 servings. I'm pretty sure it was close to 2 servings. It was probably a little under, but that's okay. So I didn't need the protein bar. I'm pretty proud of myself because my caloric deficit is only about 200 calories. And oftentimes during deload weeks, I end up with these huge deficits for some reason. And I didn't end up with a huge deficit. It's still a deficit, but it's not a huge one. So I'm actually really, really proud of myself. So I ended up with about 1,600 calories. My protein is 165, my net carbs are 52, and my fat is 76. I knew my carbs would be higher today because of the lasagna soup that I had. And then my protein actually is better because I didn't use any collagen in my coffee like I usually do. And collagen adds about 20 grams of protein to my day. So my actual like protein goal is 150, but I have it in Chronometer as 170 to account for those 20 incomplete proteins that are in the collagen. But today I didn't have the collagen. And so I actually have 165 grams of complete protein. So 15 more than my actual goal. So that's fantastic. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.